Governor Calvo, why do we need to cut spending?
Why we need to cut spending? So that we can get tax refunds to the people, money back to the people. That we can get the necessary equipment for our policemen so that they can deter crime, so that we can have teachers with the right pay, the necessary resources so that they can teach our future, so that we can hire nurses. Right now we have a hospital with hard-working nurses that are having to work extra hours, a lot of overtime, and for many of them, it's not the pay for that overtime; it's they have to. And probably the question is how do you equate providing better services in critical areas such as health, education, safety, or getting tax refunds back to the people? How do you equate that with cutting costs? Well, unfortunately, it was because of bad management of our finances in the past, bad budgeting, overestimation of revenues, not focusing on critical services, that put us in a position, overspending, that put us in a position where we had a lack of nurses, where we had policemen that didn't have the necessary tools so that they could protect the public and themselves, or we had firemen but no ambulances, or we had people, regular people, the common man, having to wait 4 or 5 years to get a tax refund, money that was theirs. That's why we have to make cuts. But these are cuts what I believe will allow us now to have the necessary resources to get people those tax refunds. We still have this fairly large deficit, and a lot of it, that amount that is owed to the people. So we have to make those cuts.
Is there a way to catch up with all tax refunds, reinstitute the increments, and pay the Hay Plan, hire police officers, pay teachers more, and buy the construction equipment that we need to build more village streets without cutting spending?
Yeah, well, we have a plan. That, of course, the original plan we had was to get ourselves out of the financial hole that we were in. We had inherited 3 consecutive years of bad budgets that were put forward and adopted by this legislature, the majority, that had put us in a hole about over $300+ million. And when I talk a hole, I mean a deficit. We had a plan to pay off all those past due obligations, that deficit, and most of it, of course, was tax refunds. That was through selling of bonds at low favorable interest rates that would pay off these tax refunds and these debts. Then moving forward, we have this omnibus spending cuts bill, which would ensure that as this government moves forward, that number one, we have operational expenditures under control. We have revenue projections that are accurate. And as boring as these explanations sound on budgeting, they're the important blueprint and framework moving forward so that we can provide adequate resources for our police, for our fire, for our schools. And we have the adequate reserves to pay tax refunds in the same year that they are filed by our people.
So it's not possible to do all of these things without cutting spending elsewhere?
The only other way to do it is increase taxes.
Will you increase taxes?
Increasing taxes, so redistributing money from the people and getting it back to government, it was government that got us in this mess in the first place. So no, tax increases are not a viable option, either economically or for growing our economy, nor for the people. We can't. We've had enough on their back. So in order to get people their tax refunds back, we tax them. That doesn't make sense. And you have a commitment from this administration that tax increases will not be an option.
What will happen if the legislature sends you a bill that increases taxes?
I'm going to remind the legislature, especially the Democratic leadership, that it was through overspending that they ratified that put us in a situation where people were not paid their tax refunds. And I'm going to tell them, so now you expect me to tax these very same people that have been waiting for these refunds in order for them to get their tax refunds on time. I'm going to tell them to start looking from within. Start looking from within some of the policies that they've made over the past few years and some of their spending patterns at the legislature as well as the government as a whole.
And lastly, Governor, tax refunds are no longer 3 to 4 years behind thanks to the financing measures. But now the wait is about 5 months. Mm-hmm. Better than it's been before, but it's still a wait. Do you still come across struggling families who need their refunds? And if you do, what do they say to you? What are some of their struggles?
Oh, every day our community relations department receives phone calls. When I'm out, I talk to people. They come up to me and say, Governor, I filed my tax refund in April. I'm waiting for my tax refund. And I can tell them they're going to get it. They're going to get it this year. But for many of them, the reason why they're asking, why they come up to a governor out in a church or at a food court, is because they're hurting. For some of them, it's been they've got some medical procedures that they have to undergo, or their family members. For some of them, boy, those power bills, they have to pay that power, that rent. For some of them, it's school starting, and they got to get the necessary supplies for their kids. Governor, we need our money. You know, these are really, again, heart-rendering and scenarios that I see every day. People that come up to me and with all humility ask me for money that is rightfully theirs. And this is something that I've seen and experienced over the past 2 years. It's unfortunate that some of the leadership in the legislature did not feel that type of either, whether you call it sympathy or at least compassion for all these people that have been waiting for so many years for their tax refunds. And this has been ingrained in my heart and soul since I've stepped into office. And I'm going to exercise all the efforts that I can to ensure that the government does not hold back the money that is owed to the people.
And finally, Governor, could I ask if you could look into the camera and give your message to the legislature about what you'd like them to do with your spending cuts bill?
Yeah. Again, I'd like to acknowledge and welcome my fellow public servants at the Guam legislature. And I fully understand that we are separate branches of government and each having a role. And with that, I understand and I also respect the importance of our legislature, the single most powerful policy-making body in this government. You have my commitment and my sincere wish and desire to work with you towards providing better services to the people. But you've also seen the situation out there. The same individuals that come to me asking for tax refunds, they've also visited your office or called you up or met you at a function. You see the pain that many of them are experiencing. I'm asking you to let's not repeat the mistakes of the past. We have a viable spending cuts bill that will wipe out most of this accumulated deficit that is built over years. And it's a spending cuts bill that will also pave the way. So moving forward, that we will have enough resources for tax refunds to the people. But I know in order to get these tax refunds, we have to make reductions in other areas. And I understand that making cuts are very difficult. You know, I'm an elected official such as you. If there were ways to do things that we did not have to make cuts, then I would not want to do it, and I wouldn't be proffering this bill to you. But we also understand that some of these tough decisions need to be made. Sometimes the medicine is bitter, but the rewards of taking that medicine in the long run are to the best interest of the patient. And in this particular instance, our spending cuts bill will be the best long-term interest of this government, but most importantly, to our taxpayers, the people of Guam.